Okay, well I'm back on. You will see that shortly, I guess. It sort of looked like I was streaming according to Twitch on my own feedback, but if anybody says anything, it was an internet glitch. So, hopefully you're back by now. Claire, how are you today? This area looks almost okay. Weird shapes. A little bit of weird shapes. Now leaving sort of a shiny bit across there, that's kind of like where the flash went, but it's just like light off hair. It's a highlight, makes it look a little bit more shiny. There is kind of another one around here as well. It's a lot subtler is this one than that one, and that's partly because the hair changes direction quite strongly in that area. Okay, now that's skin in there, so let's tone that skin area down. It's a bit light. Nice and smooth. In fact, it will be slightly darker. and I've got the side of the forehead there, so I should make sure I come right up to the edge of the hair. Now see if I can do this without creating a dark blob. And actually sometimes using a hotter pen can actually make things easier and less likely to cause things like blobs, just because you are aware it's hot, so you deal with it in that way. But also things happen quicker. And one of the things about getting blobs when specifically with a cool tip is that because you need to get, it takes longer to get any colour, you have a tendency to hold it on too long, which is one of the reasons you get a blob. Where if it's hot and you get sort of an instant colour change, then you keep it moving and you're less likely to get what you didn't expect. Oh! So I take it it's showing up live now, which is good, I hope. That probably explains why it kind of felt like Twitch had gone faulty, well, not gone faulty, but just disappeared. Oh, look at that bit of hair there. Oh, okay. Yeah, Twitch. It's almost like a... Yeah, Twitch. I was trying to think, it's not an adjective, is it? It's kind of an excuse for everything, yeah. You're not broadcasting. Yeah, Twitch. The sun's just gone supernova. Yeah, Twitch. Didn't really notice it though. I mean, I do, as part of the startup, I do monitor my own feedback for a little bit. It seemed to be, but then again, I'm looking at my dashboard rather than the actual stream window, I guess. Okay. I guess it's just something, it must be something this week then. If you had it on Monday, I've got it today, which is Wednesday, yeah. So how is things going? I want to bring that down there. Actually, I don't want to bring that down. I want to bring that down there. Multi-level colouring. Sounds like there's a cat around somewhere. Not too bad, thank you, Claire. Still feeling a little bit generally sick most of the day for some reason, I don't know. I'm gonna go see the doctors tomorrow, see what they say. See if there's anything wrong with me. Okay, this area is now starting to look like hair. Well, this area here is starting to look like hair. Not quite sure what that looks like at the moment, but not quite hair. You wouldn't think I was making this up as I went along, would you? Well, maybe you would. Especially if anybody has any idea about pyrography. It certainly probably looks extensively like I'm making this up as I go along. I'm looking at it and trying to decide what actually looks natural rather than what thank you, rather than trying to copy the picture. Because it's just, the hairstyle is one of these sort of, I don't know what you call it. You know, it's all over the place type of hairstyle. So I'm just sort of trying to do something that sort of looks okay. You've not done a stream today? Any particular reason? You kind of, I'd have thought, well, kind of you, as a publicity thing for the work, you kind of need to do as much as you can, really. I would have estimated. Well, that'd be the sort of thing I was would be thinking about if I was forced to. Well. If I was forced to give up my job, which might not be that far away, then I might do a lot more streaming. You didn't feel like it? Oh, okay. Well, there is a lot of that. I don't know what I felt like whilst I was having my tea tonight. It was, I won't say it wasn't depressed. But it was kind of like being that house. I can't actually. My voice was really quiet, and I was kind of feeling quiet, and I kind of almost decided the same thing, not to stream tonight, but kind of well, I do like streaming, and I like doing ads, and the two, one forces the other, etc. So kind of decided to do so. But yeah, that's sort of what I was a bit like, odd sort of mood. I wouldn't say I was negative, I was kind of really neutral, you know, aggressively neutral almost. Yeah, at the moment I just can't get into, don't even really want to, sort of don't really want to play games or anything at the moment. You're going to do a double stream tomorrow. Yeah, it doesn't quite work that way. You know, you don't do one day, do two the next. It's sort of, it's not the equivalent. No, actually, it's a good idea, because you will potentially find. Well, as I'm sure you know, you'll potentially find different times of the day work best sometimes for different things. I mean, of course, you've got the Americas that come online in the morning. What would be about what midday 12, midday 3 o'clock, something like that. And then you get the European evenings, sort of from 5 and things. You want to try? Yeah. It's interesting. I had a discussion the other day about addiction. I don't mean addiction as in drugs or stuff like that, but addiction to doing things. Well, I mean, I suppose even just collecting things or stuff like that. And the rings are kind of addictive. You've got one, and you try a different pattern, and you look at, and that looks nice. And I've got well, you only need to look through that website, and there's hundreds of them that look really nice. I'm not into the shaggy loops thing, but into the others, and there's some really lovely looking ones. Okay. Yeah, I used to have college like that. Start at 8 in the morning and finish at 9 at night. That's a long time ago though, and I only did it for 1 year. And that's while I was at school. Not school, at work. So, and it was kind of like, didn't get really anything for doing it. So the next year, then it's below this. I'm not working 9 o'clock at night, and the next year took 2 years to do, but that was back then. So HNC, was it HNC? I can't remember what the qualifications were back then. In ancient history. That's not quite right around there. I quite like that. And that's not bad. Don't like that colouring there. If you want a real challenge, try the half Persians. Once they're started, they're easy, but it's the starting bit with the half Persians. They try your patience quite a bit, but that's a half Persian. That's there. The 3 and the 4 in ones, but if you want something that looks complicated but is quite easy to do, the Viper Berries, it looks quite nice. Candy cane is probably a bit ambitious at the moment. You're not far, you've done it. You could do any of these rings, any of them. Now that once you've got the hang of it, it's really just following the pattern. Once you understand the pattern, they all become easy. Understanding the pattern might not be easy, but I'm kind of doing down the skill. As you have discovered, there's quite a bit of skill in there, but once you've learnt the skills, it lots of things just become easy. And I'm kind of falling into that I was about to say expert trap there, where that's easy because I know how to do it. It is easy. I was just thinking the bracelet that you did with the ribbon, that's almost a helm weave type of idea. So that might be one that you could do if you got the right. Well, you probably have the right size rings. Thinking about it. Not fantastically good, depending unless you use small rings. So not fantastically good as a bracelet. Works more like that as a necklace because they don't. Helm doesn't bend as much because of the way the rings are sandwiched together. You have to use smaller rings to actually get it to bend. Yeah. I want to have a piece of helm here, so it doesn't bend in that direction. So that's kind of hard to do bracelets with. But if these rings here are smaller, so they're more the size of the blue ones, it will bend more. So it's a trade-off of the ring size. But that sort of thing works reasonably well as a necklace because it bends that way quite well. The Goose of the Wild, thank you very much. Depends what you mean by lag. Voice and video look to be synchronized to me. I'm pushing out a steady 14, 1800, 1.4, 1.8 kilobits per second of video without any drop frames. So I suspect the lag is either at your end or between Twitch and you. Does happen sometimes. In fact, if I look at my own stream coming back at me, which of course now Twitch will want to play an advert, and I'll have a look and see if I get the same thing. Sometimes you might just need to restart the stream. Me? No, thank you. Besides, I can't grow one. Eat more chips. Good afternoon or good evening. I wonder if that's English chips or American chips, or even I would ask you to be polite, Goose of the Wild. And this is pyrography, so there's no brush strokes as such. This is down, but this is heat. Although I do describe it as painting with heat, there's no brush involved. And the portrait is a commission. English chips, okay. In that case, you've got to get a decent fish and chip shop, and there aren't always a lot of those around. But other than that, decent fish and chip shop, chips, really good. Salt and vinegar, perfect. You found one, yeah. Everybody always has their own favourite chip shop, and there's when you go somewhere else in the country, they're never the same. Kind of always say, I'm from Yorkshire. They always kind of say the fish and chips in Yorkshire are better than anywhere else in the country. I don't know where you're from, but you always have your favourite fish and chip shop, and they're never the same from any other one around the place. So some of this colouring is quite right. You're from Kent, okay. Well, maybe it's a Yorkshireman that moved down there and opened a chip shop. Dear. As as long as you don't say it's Harry Ramsden's. Right. That's what that is. That wants to fade out a little bit. It's a bit too higher contrast, all in a sudden short place. So we'll just spread that colour out a little bit. Well, I mean, when you've got a name like that, well, it has to eat more chips. You kind of have to talk about fish and chips. Ah, dear. I mean, I even been to quite a few seaside towns, and where fish is caught fresh, and it's not the same as Yorkshire. Well, unless it's a Yorkshire seaside town, but they're still never the same as your home, whatever your hometown is, or. But yeah, you're right. It is kind of funny. Goose of the Wild. Not funny. Okay, so that's looking better. No, what? Yeah, I think that okay. I do sometimes tend to talk in code, or actually, it's sort of sentences that are extremely short. Well, I'll sort of say half a sentence because the other half is I've sort of said in my own head. And when I do that, all I am really just doing is talking my way through whatever's the next bit that I'm about to do. So I'll be talking about placement, and I'll say half a sentence, and it's kind of gibberish when you're listening, but it is just helping me concentrate by saying out loud what I'm, well, half saying out loud what I'm doing. So like trying to sort of indicate the hair flow, and in actual fact that and that look a little odd, so the way I do that to stop that is I more or less just join them together like that. Now it doesn't look quite as odd, and if I just darken the area a little bit as a transition, and that looks better. Okay, Goose of the Wild, that's what you want, no problem, there you go. Yeah, he gets around a lot, doesn't he? quite a helpful little bot there from time to time, reminding people about the shop, because it's all this stuff that's in the picture there is in the Etsy shop, and the shop supports the stream with people buying things. It enables me to buy things like wood and rings and stuff like that, so he does a good job, does Moobot. Actually, that colour doesn't look quite right. In doing this now, I will spend a heck of a lot of time, relatively speaking, that is, but it probably will turn out over the full hair to be several hours, and I'll just be doing things like that doesn't look quite right, and I'll just be adjusting the darkness or the tone. I've got a slight highlight there that I don't want, so we'll just, and as I'm working my way through this, I'm going to keep tooling marks smooth lines, because all of this hairstyle is somewhat convoluted. Hair does tend to lie in smooth curves and lines, and so you've got a section of hair, even though the hair styling of it is to have it in sort of a wavy sort of pattern, but it comes in smooth curves, and you've got to keep the pen in the same direction because the tooling marks are visible. That's what makes all these lines look like hair, is the fact that the tooling marks are in the smooth curve of the hairline. So you kind of like don't colour in like that here. You follow the contour. And now this area looks a little too light. In fact, I probably should make this edge reasonably dark. One of the things before I finish this complete piece is I will be using a scalpel blade, and I'll actually bring some of this hair out over the dark area by using the scalpel blade to scrape away the surface. So whilst this kind of looks like a really abrupt edge, what I will do with the scalpel is that will soften off, and it won't look quite as much as though it's been cut out with a pair of scissors. Yeah, I'm not very good at it. I say I'm not very good at it. I always manage it. I've done more cats and big cats than human hair. Done a fair few portraits, but I've done more animals, and human hair is different. But I need a lot more practice. I'm still working out techniques of doing it. In actual fact, people with long hair, it is actually easy because they tend to have hairstyle that is long curves. Shorter hair is a lot harder to do because of it's either styled in a, I won't say a strange way because it's a hairstyle, but it's sort of styled in lots of short curves usually. Yeah, well, thank you. I've seen people do a lot better job than I do. It's just practice, and that's not avoiding it. Having said which, of course, I haven't quite finished the portrait, but you'll notice that the hair is largely undone, where the rest of the portrait has got a reasonable level of finish to it. I still tend to leave you all the last thing, but I do enjoy when it starts to come together, like this is starting to look like hair, and you know, and it's shiny hair. You can see the light shining off it, and it actually starts to look like what it's meant to. And I don't enjoy the starting, but yeah, filling this in is not, the initial filling it in is not fantastically enjoyable from that perspective. But once it is, and it sort of starts to be like this, which has still got some work to do. You've got the base rough textures in there, and as you start then to add colour and shading, and it starts to look right, and then it becomes quite an enjoyable bit of doing it. But it is certainly a long. Split on the side, the hair is pointing away from. Oh, okay, yeah, sort of. Yeah, I kind of know what you mean. Yeah, I don't gel mine, but there again, I haven't got that much to gel. But that would make yours easier to do, because the gel, of course, makes it smooth. And so, you know, it's there would be less sort of curves, which are all over the place here, curves in all sorts of directions. It would be a nice smooth, however long the hair is, of course, but nice smooth curves across, which would make it easier to do. It is because this sort of hairstyle has got because it's got lots of curves. You've got sort of like little pockets where something's over the top of the other, so you've got dark pockets underneath, and it changes direction often, so you've got shadows and things like that. Something like gelled hair, as you mentioned, or sort of long straight hair, is just smooth. You don't have all these sorts of interior spaces that are darker and lighter. It is just sort of this sort of thing where you just got nice smooth straight lines, and that then you're concentrating on just sort of the reflection lines and the hint of the fact that there is strands of hair. But they're all different. That's one thing I like doing about portraits to some extent. They're all different. Everybody's portrait is different. And talking portraits, I had to get on with this one. So that's over the top of that, yeah. That highlight there is inappropriate in that place. I am doing something with this which, generally speaking, you try and avoid, which is I am doing what I think it should be, as opposed to normally when you doing this sort of thing, one of the mantras is paint, draw what you see, not what you think, because what you think fools you. But largely speaking, on the hair here, I'm actually doing what I think rather than what I see. I'm not trying to copy the reference image at all. I wouldn't, it's just too complex a shape to try and copy. But so I'm just sort of taking the general style. But then it is things like, that bit should be darker just there because that strand of hair is going over the top and that one is. So therefore, it would be in a slight shadow and stuff like that. Okay. Yeah, super hard. Might be useful on a building site then. You wouldn't need a hard hat. Sorry. I don't actually like things like gel, personally, because I just don't like anything in my hair. I don't like anything at all. It's a bit of a problem sometimes because mine's relatively short and fine hair, and it does tend to just stick anywhere it likes, straight up half the time. But so I don't like gel or anything in my hair. That camera is tipped down. Oh, I see. Sorry, I'll just... There we go. Everyone is unique. Indeed they are. Life would be boring if everybody was identical. Well, it wouldn't be boring. It would just... We'd be bored if everybody was identical. Then you wouldn't need to meet anybody else because they'd be just like everybody else. Right, so... yeah, this isn't it? Yeah, this is a little bit bright. It's okay, but a little bit bright. It probably does want to be highlighted a little bit, and I'm just trying to think. Probably the edges need to come in the bottom. So just to reduce the size of the brightness to start with. Because this is kind of fading into the background as it would. But it's rather an abrupt transition, which is mainly an artifact of the video, because there's less of a transition, less of a sharp transition here in person. But if I know if I take a step or two backwards, if I could do that here in the studio, it would look like you're seeing it on camera. So when you see me actually doing what I'm doing there, which is looking up, I'm actually looking at the output window, so I'm seeing what the camera is seeing, which produces a very useful view. Some pictures, and a lot of my pictures are the same. They're not close-up view pictures. You step back so you see the whole picture, and the camera allows me to do that without actually taking a step back, which is really useful. So let's extend this out, or this colour out a little bit, so that it doesn't transition quite as quickly. Real dark heavy, still a bit strong, but it's getting there. Okay, so this is all a case of it's getting there, and all of a sudden it'll get there and I'll stop. But when that exactly will be, I'm not sure. You just look at the picture and go, you know what, that's it. The Poison Paul, thank you. You're dancing to the music. Okay. Well, it does have sort of a tribal African theme to it, as this particular piece. This one doesn't sound quite dance style. All this music, as it should say below the stream window, is from Purple Planet music. It's royalty free. Royalty free. Used the license is a by attribution license, so it says below my stream window where the music comes from, and that fulfills the requirements of the license to use it. Well, not literally. I agree. I sometimes find myself doing with something like that. I'll find myself doing pyrographic strokes to the music, and sometimes it's helpful, sometimes it's not. I do actually, while I'm pyrographing, actually whilst I'm doing quite a few things, carving or scraper board, the slow music like this, it makes it nice and relaxing to do work to. And you can, if I wasn't streaming, I'd probably get quite lost in doing the work with something like some of the music that's playing. You just sort of tune everything else out and just literally tune everything out. You just sort of fall into the work, and yeah, several hours can quite easily pass without noticing. He says noticing it's now 9:30, which means it's an hour and a bit since I started streaming. Yeah. Well, that's what you call inspiration. That's what you call inspiration. Now you take that music note and make something out of it. The music has inspired you to draw, which is absolutely fantastic. So around this earring, probably wants to be darkened off. It certainly looks a bit too bright, so we will darken off around there without getting onto the actual earring, so that it maintains a sort of a slightly lighter reflection almost. Ah, cool. I quite enjoy drawing. I enjoy drawing vehicles. I'm not very good at it. One of the sometimes landscapes. I'm not good at those either. Basically, I just need a lot of practice. I can draw. I can draw visually. So I can, if I look at something, I can draw by looking at something. What I can't do is make up a landscape or make up a vehicle. I actually have to have a model of something to do. So, for example, if I want to do an articulated truck, I've got a model in front of me. So I'll just pose that, and then I can draw it. I can't sort of just sit down and just draw. Not even Bob Ross landscapes. So I do need to practice, but Engines and parts. I remember, years and years and years and years ago, actually spending a lot of time doing a really detailed drawing of a Harley Davidson motorbike. It took it took several weeks and I never actually finished, but that's a long, long time ago. I wonder if I've still got that anyway. Pencil drawing as well. And I wasn't doing it for any particular reason other than, well, I was copying a real bike, but I wasn't doing it for any particular reason other than I just felt like doing it. I know this summer I want to try and do sort of more landscapes. I actually have a tablet computer which I can draw on, so I do this summer want to try and sort of get out and do some I say landscapes, but shall we say external images, you know. Up in Yorkshire there's a place called the Bingley Five Rise, which is a canal locks. There's 5 of them in sequence. That's one I've kind of an image I kind of always wanted to go and go up there and draw that, for example. So I think I'll have to sort of make a special effort, but it's kind of too easy to sort of sit in and do. You know, I like doing chainmail, for example, which is I think, well, as you can see in the images, but things like this, and it's too easy to sit in and do some of that. It's to go out and practice drawing mechanical things. Yeah, Lego. I was going to say I don't have any Lego technique. I used to have Lego. This is 40 odd years ago, actually 35 years ago, because my grandparents had a really large Lego kit. Back then it was a lot simpler than it is now, but you could still do some quite amazing sort of buildings and stuff like that with it. But yeah, the Lego technique stuff and, you know, the mechanical stuff that you've got with Lego these days, pistons, motors, all sorts of stuff, it is absolutely fantastic for making stuff with any, you know, if you have any sort of imagination in that way. The stuff that's available is absolutely amazing. I don't go in toy shops all that often, or model shops, however you want to describe it. But I quite often will look at those sorts of kits, and I'll look at them and then eventually decide that no, I'm not going to buy them, but I do spend a lot of time looking at them sometimes. There's no shape in there at the moment. It's flat. It's flat. It sort of is flat, but that looks too flat. So let's see if we can add in a little bit of texture to stop it being quite so flat as it is. Now that therefore suggests that there should be, turn it the other way a minute, You're 15, so you have a good interest in toys and train sets. I'm over 50. I have a good interest in toys and train sets. Dear. You don't have to be young or old. Okay. My interest in train sets is perhaps a little bit more sophisticated. Perhaps because actually my interest in train sets is not train sets as such. It's model making and electronic control of trains, so the signalling systems and the computer control, that sort of thing. But yeah, you don't have to be you don't have to be young to be interested in those. Dear toys. I have a remote controlled tank over there, which is half finished. I have a remote controlled articulated truck behind me. I've got 3 remote control helicopters over there. That's that way, and somewhere I've got a 6-wheel F1 Tyrrell car. Toys, miniature models. First British person. Oh, there's quite a few of us around. Claire, who was around when you started and broadcasts, is English. Clary Bug. Yeah, there's quite a few creative people. Indeed, yeah. Although strictly speaking, I'm not burning. Or well, it's your definition of burning, really. Yeah, pyrography. Literal translation of which is fire writing. Pyro is fire, graphy is writing. It's a Greek derivative. I tend to call it painting with heat because there's no fire, there's no flames involved. You can do this with flames, and there are people that do it with acetylene torches, blow torches, but they generally use large, big sheets of wood. And of course, I'm in the studio. I'm in the house. Don't want naked flames around the place. This is electrically heated. It's probably up to about 300 degrees, something like that. Actually, that's, I was about to say Celsius. Yeah, possibly. And this is kind of like cooking the wood. As you apply the heat, what it seems to do is draw I won't say the sap, but a liquid out of the wood fibres and cooks it. And when you cook that liquid, it turns brown and sort of sits amongst the fibres, which is why it goes this sort of colour. The sort of idea is the same as maple syrup, which comes out of a tree, which is the sap out of a maple tree, and when you cook that, it goes this sort of colour. So I kind of stay away from the burning bit. This isn't, as I say, it doesn't set it on fire. This isn't hot enough to set it on fire. This is just normal kitchen paper, for example. So that's kind of no flames. Then this is tissue paper to all intents and purposes. In actual fact, it is actually quite hard. I'm going to see if I can do it on this. Probably if I hold it in place for long enough, I can char it. That is, I describe it as carbonising it. It's a bit like making charcoal. You heat wood enough that it does that. You drive off some of the liquid, and you leave charcoal behind. If I hold it in place for long enough, I'll actually go through this, but that still is just caught the top surface. And you can do pyrography on paper. If I do, the thicker the paper the better, so thick card works better, but I can actually do pyrography on this paper. It is challenging to do it because it's very easy to carbonise thin paper. The thicker the better. But yes, the picture that you see here is done purely by different amounts of heat applied to the wood to create the different colours. It's not a, there's no sort of, it's not like paint where you apply red paint you get red, and you apply blue paint you get blue. This is literally, the more I hold it on, the darker it gets. So the skill comes in heating the wood just enough to get the colour you want. You make lots of model cars and sell them. Well, it is a bit like tanning. Yes, that's right. You don't want to be tanned like that though. Lots of model cars and sell them. What? As in kit type models, or actually scratch building models? But amazing, well done. Perhaps you want that sort of thing would be interesting to see on Twitch. Yeah, because anything creative like that is absolutely fantastic to see. Personally, when I watch Twitch, I tend to watch people doing physical crafts or arts. So I don't watch the electronic artists quite so much, despite the fact that I do that as well. I don't do it on stream, but I do that myself, electronic art. But when I'm watching, I tend to like people. Watching people pyrography. There's some sculptors on. There's people throwing pots, pottery. I've seen wood turning. These sorts of things I like to watch more than I will watch art, which is daft. Yeah, I do art, but I watch other things. Yeah, mind you, I also interesting definition of what's art, because I do scraper board, which is art, which is what I would describe as art, but equally I carve, and that is an art form, but it's not what I call art. I call that a craft, but And one thing I do is I quite often, when I'm talking, forget to do what I'm doing. So I shall carry on. Adding those little bits of detail. Indeed, it is. It's burning a fuel to make a fuel. You burn wood to heat wood, to drive off the stuff that burns in the wood to create a fuel that you can burn. Yeah, it's weird. Because if you heat wood enough, it sort of gives off smoke. I don't know whether it's not actually smoke, but the stuff it gives off is actually combustible. You can set fire to it and it burns. It's like when you heat coal, and this history lesson. Gas in the UK is natural gas, comes out of the ground. Years ago it didn't. Well, it didn't. It was made from coal. They would literally cook coal in an oven, and it gave off gas, coal gas, which is what they piped around the place. And then they changed over to natural gas. But charcoal is, and what you were left with then is coke, which is slightly different. It looks grey coal, for want of a better description, which still burns, even though you've driven off this gas, which also burns. It seems to be like two for the price of one. Wood and charcoal is kind of the same thing. Yeah, kit cars. Okay, story time. When I was a lad, we had coal gas, and everybody when they changed over to natural gas, everybody had to have the gas board come round and in some cases change gas jets and things on cookers and boilers, so that they would burn natural gas properly. Kit car. Yeah, I like making kits. Haven't done any for a long time. The one kit that I always wanted to do and never did is an aircraft, an FX aircraft kit of the Spitfire, the biggest one that they do. I've forgotten what the scale of it is now, but I always wanted to do one of those and never did. I like kits with lots of parts though. It gets very confusing. You see, you come to my streams, and not only do you get art, you get history lessons and all sorts of weird things. We have talked about all weird sorts of things on this stream before in the past. So you go away knowing something you didn't know before about coal gas. Yeah, I just like the shape actually of the Spitfire. It's a beautiful shape. I don't know whether that's because as an artist shape is what interests me or quite what, but yeah, it's a lovely model. I was never fantastically keen on ships as plastic kits anyway. I've built a few to run on lakes, remote control, but never been fantastically interested in building plastic kits of them. It's been aircraft, spacecraft, not done cars actually. Don't think I've ever built a car. And it's always been, yeah, and I mean I like the remote control aircraft, so maybe that's got something to do with it. I know remote control wise, one of the things I've always, for some reason, is for water, I'm more interested in either submarines or a sailing craft, pure wind powered sailing craft. Not fantastically interested in sort of jet boats or anything like that. I kind of like the gentle stuff. Although having said which, the one model, and maybe I'll do it one of these days, when I've got a new studio, when I've got some space. The one thing I've always wanted to make, especially for remote control, is a hovercraft. That's the one model I've always wanted to try and make, but I don't ever pick easy ones. There's a model called an SRN4, which is a more history for you. Is a big, or was a big car transport type ferry. I forgot how many people it would carry, but it'd carry about 20 cars. It used to cross the channel from, I think it was Dover. I've seen it a few times. Big 4-engine hovercraft, really massive sort of thing, and I've always wanted to do one of those. Your first model car was a Jaguar E-Type. Yeah, they're a nice looking car. I've got an X-Type. I've got an X-Type model, but I actually have an X-Type. So yeah, Jaguars are nice looking cars. The cats. Now that's looking better. There's more shape in this now. I'm too old to remember what my first ever model was. It's such a long time ago now. I know I like lots of wheels. That's why I've got the 6-wheel Tyrrell and the articulated trucks. So in that sort of line, there's a couple of things that I'd like to do. One is the transport vehicle that it's not available as a kit, so it'd be scratch built. But the transport vehicle that used to transport the Saturn V rockets and the shuttle, although that's tracks rather than wheels. And there's a specialist vehicle, shall we say, which basically has got about 60 wheels. It moves really slowly. It's used for things like putting bridges in, transporting bridges, really heavy things. It has about 60 wheels. They'll all turn together, and so it can go sideways and any sorts of direction you like. And it's actually a remote control vehicle. The operator is connected by a cable, but they walk along with it, and it moves really slowly. And they literally do things like carry bridges on it. And they can gang 3 or 4 of these things together to take wide loads or long loads and things. And kind of, for no other reason, it's got lots of wheels, and I'd just love to make one like that. The X-Type was more like the older style of, and it was more reminiscent of the older style, and they started getting with things like the S-Type. But it was I had the X-Type with the first model, basically. I've forgotten what weight it's at now, but I still got, it's about my 3rd or 4th, and wouldn't be getting another one now. Not only because they don't know if they still do the X-Type, but they're quite an expensive car to run. When I got mine, it was it was a business vehicle, so it was a different sort of way of paying for it. But yeah, it's been a really nice car. They're really nice and smooth to drive. You put your foot down, you get the Jaguar growl out of it, and it doesn't sit still. And here I am again, talking without doing. I need to round this off a bit. I need to imply a bit more shape. Actually, I'd probably do some of that by darkening that edge off. And then extending the shadow out here a little bit more. And then, yeah, just fade across. So it's like a shade. Start dark, come light, and try and get it to be smooth. Because this is rounded, so a smooth transition is what I'm after, from light through to dark. No, I'm not getting it. Yep, that's true. I think they were. I think at one time they were owned by Ford, and there's some tie-up with Land Rover. I don't know if Land Rover was owned by Ford, or there's some tie-up with Land Rover at one point. But yeah, I think it's something like Tata, who own Jaguar now. I haven't particularly noticed any anything different about it. It's, you know, made in the same place. But yeah, you're right. They are a car. They are a car maker, so. I'm not happy with what's going on down there. Dream cars. I don't know. These days, mine probably. What would mine be? Actually, I know what it is. I'm just trying to think of the name of it. Oh, what on earth is it called? That's really weird. Normally, I'd be able to say this straight off the top of my head. It's actually electric. They're made by Elon Musk, and I really cannot remember the name of the thing. I really can't. That is absolutely weird. I can see the car in my mind, but I just cannot recall its name. But that would be the car I'd get these days, if I could afford to do so. It's I don't know. It's a lot of thousands of pounds anyway. But it's fast. It's got a long range. It's a comfortable car, and it's got lots of toys. I think I'm going to leave this for now. In fact, I probably would leave it and move on to something else, but it's 10 o'clock at night, and that's about when I normally stop streaming for the evening. You know what's going to bother me? So I'm just going to see if I can look this up. Electric car. It should be, no, it's not that one, it's not that one. Everybody's got electric cars these days. Tesla, that's the one. Named after Nikola Tesla. More history for you. Yeah, well, I'm getting old. That's an excuse, my excuse. But yeah, just needed a slight hint, and then I could remember. And the slight hint was just seeing the name. But yeah, I can't actually remember what the models are, but the top of the range Tesla. It's fantastic looking. I've never actually seen one in person, but it's, as I say, it's fast. Its acceleration is fast, and of course, I think the fastest production road car is actually electric. Believe it or not. So, yeah, fastest 0 to 60 production car. But the Tesla. So, having resolved that, which would have bugged me for most of this evening. Never heard of it. Tesla. Okay, take a look at them. If you're into cars, then it's a nice shape. Well, I think it's a nice shape. Other people think it's a bit odd, but there again, any cars these days, sometimes they look odd. The current style looked odd the first time I saw them. Nowadays they look normal. But take a look at it. There's some really fast cars doing some really interesting stuff. I forgot what the 0 to 60 time is, and the 60 to 100 is still absolutely amazing in terms of things. Not that I want to drive fast, to be honest. It doesn't interest me these days. I'm old. It's comfortable, but when I drive, I tend to drive long distances, and speed doesn't help there, not unless you're on the continent. So comfort does. But thanks for dropping in. Eat more chips. It's been interesting having a chat and a talk. I'm going to do a small advert, which is to remind people, zaragonart.com is, I do have some more explanation of some of the pictures that's on there. That's the site I'm building. It's got a small shop, but if people are interested in buying jewellery, for example, which is what's predominantly in the shop, at zaragonart.etsy.com, all of those pictures that are of jewellery there are from that store, and they've been done on stream as well. I'd encourage people to follow me. That way you'll get to know when I go live tomorrow, if Twitch is working properly, which it kind of wasn't tonight. And to get around that, you could follow me on Twitter, because the tweets do go out, and that worked. It's at Zaragonart. On the other hand, if you'd just like to try and catch me, I'm hoping to be on tomorrow night. Work situation at the moment means it's a bit hit and miss, I'm afraid. Sometimes I am, sometimes I aren't, but I hope to be on tomorrow night from about 8 PM UK time, 2000 hours UTC or GMT. They're both the same, or roughly about 2 hours ago. The Bugatti. I believe the electric car is faster. The Bugatti is fast, but the electric car is faster. It's also cheaper to run. So you get a supercar speed for a lot cheaper fuel cost. Thanks everybody, and hope I'll see you around again. Eat more chips. Don't eat too many though. You put on too much weight. Thanks, and I'll see you all again in the future. Bye for now.